Hello, guys, and welcome back. You have found your way once more to this quiet harbor, a place for long stories and forgotten lore, crafted to carry you away on their slow, deep currents towards the shores of slumber. Welcome to Forbidden Lore for Sleep. Tonight we journey again to the sun-drenched lands of ancient Greece, but we are not visiting the grand halls of kings to speak of glory, nor are we walking the sunlit steps of a philosopher's school to debate the nature of virtue. Instead, our path leads us to a place of shadow, a place of rot and water and poison, a place of unending, thankless labor. The myths often speak of heroism, of heroes wreathed in victory, their names sung by cheering crowds. But some quests, some tasks given to mortals by the gods or by petty, fearful kings, are not about glory at all.
They are about endurance. They are about confronting something so vile, so unnatural, that victory does not feel like a triumph, but merely a brief pause in the suffering. Tonight, we explore why it truly sucked to be a Hydra slayer. We will not just tell the tale of the beast with regenerating heads. We will feel the humid, poisoned air of the swamp of Lerna fill our lungs. We will understand the deep, soul-crushing despair of a battle where every victory only makes your enemy stronger. This is not the story of a glorious monster hunt. It is the story of a grim, dirty, and miserable job. So, before you get too comfortable, take a quiet moment to like this story and subscribe to the channel. But only, of course, if you genuinely enjoy what we do here. And, if you wish, let me know in the comments where you're listening from tonight and what time it is for you. It is always a quiet wonder to see who is joining our journey from all around the world.
Now, the time for talk is over. The time for stillness has begun. Let the world outside this sound fade away. Allow your body to become heavy, your muscles to soften, your mind to quieten. Find the position that brings you the most ease and take a slow, deep breath, feeling the air fill your lungs, and then let it all go with a long, quiet sigh. Close your eyes. There is nothing more required of you tonight. Simply rest and listen. Let my voice be a steady anchor in the dark, a quiet rhythm to accompany your own. Our story begins not in the swamp itself, but in the court of a cowardly king, where a task that is truly a death sentence is about to be given. Let us begin.
The glory of your past deeds, the memory of small victories and hard-won respect, feels like a story told of another man now. Today, you do not walk with a hero swagger. You walk with the quiet, measured steps of one who has been summoned. The two palace guards who collected you from your home did not speak. Their silence was a heavy cloak, smothering the usual morning sounds of the city as they led you through the winding streets and into the cool, imposing shadow of the king's citadel. You move through halls of stone, your footsteps echoing slightly in the sparse corridors. There are no grand tapestries here, no displays of wealth. King Eurystheus rules not with opulence, but with a quiet, anxious authority. The air inside is cool and still. You are led to two great wooden doors, which are opened for you, and you step inside the audience chamber alone. The chamber is vast, but feels empty. The king, Eurystheus, is perched on his plain wooden throne at the far end of the room. He is a small man, swallowed by the scale of the hall. He fidgets with a ring on his finger, his eyes darting around the room, landing on everything but you. You stand before him, a silent warrior, and you wait. The silence stretches, thick and uncomfortable. Finally, he speaks, his voice thin and reedy, struggling to fill the space. The great warrior, he begins, a weak smile failing to reach his weary eyes. A task has arisen, a chance for glory, a service to the kingdom that only a man of your particular talents can accomplish. You remain silent. You know this is no honor. Your reputation for strength and self-reliance has made the king nervous. You are a tool that has become too sharp, and he is looking for a stone hard enough to break you. He clears his throat, his gaze finally, briefly, meeting yours before skittering away to a dark corner of the ceiling. There is a pestilence, a blight upon our lands. In the swamps of Lerna, a creature of nightmare has made its lair. He leans forward, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper, as if sharing a grand secret rather than passing a death sentence. They call it the Hydra.
He lets the name hang in the air. He begins to recount the whispered tales, the rumors gathered from terrified hunters and hysterical peasants who ventured too close to the swamp's edge. He speaks of its breath, a foul, poisonous vapor that withers crops and brings a burning sickness to any man who inhales it. He tells the story of a shepherd whose entire flock died simply from drinking downstream from the beast's lair. He speaks of its blood, a black, acidic venom so potent that a single drop can corrode bronze and cause a wound that will never heal. He describes with a morbid fascination how the very ground it slithers upon is rendered barren and black for years to come. And then, his voice trembling slightly, he comes to the heart of the impossibility. The creature's heads.
They say it has 9, he whispers, each one a serpent filled with malice. But its true horror, its true mockery of the laws of the gods, is what happens when one is severed. 2 more sprout forth in its place, stronger, angrier. He paints a vivid, terrifying picture of it for you. A writhing, regenerative mass of fury that cannot be defeated by strength. A battle that punishes victory. As he speaks, you listen, your face an unreadable mask of stone. But inside, a cold knot of dread begins to tighten in your stomach. This is not a quest, it is an execution. The king continues, his eyes now gleaming with a feverish light as he fully embraces his role as the dispatcher of this grand, impossible task. He sees this as the perfect solution. If by some miracle you succeed, the kingdom is saved and he takes the credit. If, as is all but certain, you fail, a warrior who makes him uneasy is removed forever.
You watch him, this small, fearful man on his large, lonely throne, and you understand the nature of his power. It is not strength, but cunning. The cunning of a weak king who uses the strength of others to solve his problems. The litany of the Hydra's horrors finally ends. The king leans back, a look of strained finality on his face. "Rid the land of this pestilence," he commands, his voice trying and failing to sound firm. "That is the task I give to you. Do not fail me." You give a single, curt nod. It is the only reply required. You turn, your footsteps echoing loudly in the silent hall as you walk away. The great wooden doors close behind you with a deep, final thud. The decree has been given. Your fate has been sealed. You step out from the cold shadow of the palace and back into the warm sunlight of the city. But the world feels different now. You are a dead man walking.
As you walk back through the city streets, you notice the change immediately. News travels through a place like this on unseen currents. A whisper passed from a palace guard to a serving maid, from the maid to a merchant, until the entire city knows your fate before you have even reached your own doorstep. The people who once greeted you with a respectful nod or a friendly wave now avert their eyes. They part to let you pass, creating a small, invisible circle of isolation around you. They look at you not with admiration, but with a profound and sorrowful pity. You are no longer one of them. You have been marked. You are an offering. You pass through the agora, the bustling heart of the city, and even there, a quiet ripple follows in your wake. The lively chatter of commerce dies down as you approach, only to resume in hushed, urgent whispers once you have passed. You see an old woman at a stall, selling olives and figs. She catches your eye, and her own face, a road map of wrinkles, softens with compassion. As you pass, she quickly presses a small, tarnished silver amulet into your hand, its surface worn smooth from years of anxious prayer. "For protection against the unholy," she mutters, before turning away, unwilling to hold your gaze for too long. You make your way to the training grounds, the place you once called a second home. The familiar, rhythmic clang of bronze on bronze, the shouts of exertion, the camaraderie, it all feels like it belongs to another world now. As you enter, the sparring stops. Your fellow warriors, men you have bled with, men who have celebrated your past victories, look at you with strained expressions. One of them, a broad-shouldered man named Lycan, claps you on the back, but the gesture feels hollow, forced. "The Hydra," he says, his voice rough. "They say a long spear is best, to keep you from the breath." Another chimes in. "No, speed is what you need. You must be quicker than a striking snake." They offer useless advice, words to fill the terrible silence. They are trying to treat this like any other fight, but their eyes betray the truth. They are speaking to a ghost. They are saying goodbye. Even your closest companions struggle to find words of comfort. They speak of your legendary strength, of your unmatched courage, but their voices lack conviction. Their praise sounds like a eulogy, a recitation of virtues for a man already gone. They know, as you now know with chilling certainty, that this is not a test of skill. It is a descent into a living nightmare, a battle against nature itself, and it cannot be won. Returning to your home is the hardest part. The small, familiar space feels charged with a heavy, unspoken grief. Your mother, upon seeing the look on your face, drops a clay pot she was carrying. It shatters on the floor, the sound unnervously loud in the quiet room. She does not weep. Her sorrow is too deep for tears. It is a still, silent agony that contorts her features. Your father, a proud man who taught you how to hold a sword, simply places a heavy hand on your shoulder. You can feel a slight tremor in his touch, the only sign of the heartbreak that rages beneath his stoic exterior. The days leading up to your departure are a strained, uneasy passage of time. You sharpen your sword, the rhythmic shing, shing, shing of the whetstone, a meditative, somber sound. You are not preparing with the hopeful anticipation of a hero. You are preparing with the grim determination of one ensuring they will have a clean death, the only small mercy you can grant yourself. You gather your meager supplies, a skin of water, some dried meat, hard bread. Each item feels laughably inadequate against the monstrous foe that awaits you.
Sleep offers no respite. The rumors you have heard during the day fester in your mind at night, blooming into full-blown nightmares. You dream of writhing serpentine forms in a dark, murky swamp. You dream of the hiss of 1,000 tongues, of milky yellow eyes watching you from the shadows. You dream of a sickly green fog that burns your lungs and a black venom that turns your blood to fire. You wake in a cold sweat, the weight of the impossible task pressing down on you like a physical burden, a stone upon your chest. The knowledge that for every successful strike you land, the beast will only grow stronger, gnaws at the very foundation of your warrior's resolve. It is a cruel paradox, a battle designed to break the spirit long before the body fails. Finally, the day of your departure arrives. You stand at the city gates, looking back at the familiar walls and rooftops one last time. You think of your family, their faces etched with a pain you are powerless to heal. You think of your friends, their forced smiles hiding their certainty that they will never see you again.
In that moment, the weight of King Eurystheus's command feels less like a task and more like a curse, a solitary journey into darkness from which there is no hope of return. The path to Lerna lies ahead, a grim pilgrimage towards a confrontation that promises only pain, futility, and a lingering, poisonous end. The weight of this impossible burden settles deep within you, a cold certainty that this is not the path to glory, but a slow, agonizing march towards oblivion. Let the image of the distant city fade, and feel the first step of your journey begin, a journey not of heroic intent, but of heavy, unavoidable dread. You walk through the lion gate of Mycenae, leaving the citadel behind you. You do not look back. The sun is warm on your shoulders, a familiar comfort, but today it feels like a stranger's touch, offering a warmth that cannot penetrate the cold dread that has settled in your core. The road before you is dusty and well-trodden, a pale ribbon winding through the rolling golden hills of the Peloponnese. For the first days, your journey is a study in bitter contrast, a pilgrimage through a world that refuses to mourn with you. The Greek countryside, in its late summer glory, unfolds in a panorama of stubborn, unrelenting life. You walk through ancient olive groves, their countless silver-green leaves shimmering in the gentle breeze, creating a soft, whispering sound like 1,000 quiet secrets being shared. The air itself is a perfume, thick with the sharp, clean scent of wild thyme and oregano, crushed under your leather sandals with every step. The lazy, hypnotic buzz of cicadas is a constant chorus, the very sound of peace, a sound you have known your entire life.
But you are a ghost in this vibrant landscape. You see the beauty, but you cannot feel its joy. A shepherd, high on a distant hill, raises a hand in greeting, but you can only offer a curt nod in return. You see a family of farmers harvesting their grain, their laughter carrying on the wind, and it feels like a melody from another lifetime, a song you no longer remember how to sing. The weight of your purpose, the cold knowledge of what waits for you in Lerna, acts as a pane of invisible glass between you and the world. You are here, but you are not part of it anymore. The days fall into a simple, grueling rhythm. Sunrise, walking, midday, a brief rest under the shade of a cypress tree. Sunset, walking. The sun becomes your only clock, its slow, inexorable arc across the sky, measuring out the dwindling hours of your life. You eat your simple rations, dry bread, a piece of hard cheese, an occasional handful of olives. The food is sustenance, nothing more. It does not pleasure you. It merely fuels the body for another day's march towards its doom.
The nights are a different kind of trial. You make your camp away from the road, in a hidden hollow or a small, secluded grove. You build only a small, sputtering fire, its weak flame pushing back a tiny circle of the immense darkness. The fire offers a little warmth, but no comfort. As you lie on the hard ground, wrapped in your single cloak, you stare up at the night sky. The stars are brilliant here, away from the lights of the city. A vast, silent ocean of cold, silver fire. You trace the familiar shapes of the constellations, the same patterns that shine down upon your home. But they no longer feel like friendly guides. They feel like cold, distant, and utterly indifferent witnesses to your lonely fate. Sleep is a shallow, troubled sea, and you wake often, the silence of the night more unnerving than any sound. You pass other travelers, but your isolation is complete. A merchant with his laden mules sees the look in your eyes and gives you a wide, respectful berth. A group of cheerful pilgrims on their way to a distant shrine fall silent as you approach, their songs dying on their lips. They see you are on a different kind of pilgrimage, not towards a sacred shrine, but towards a profane one. Slowly, gradually, you begin to notice the first signs of change. It is subtle at first. The streams you cross to refill your water skin are no longer as clear and swift.
The water seems a little cloudier, the current a little more sluggish. The vibrant olive groves become rarer, replaced by patches of tougher, more resilient pine trees. The grass on the hillsides seems a little less green, a little more yellow. The world has not yet turned foul, but you can feel its edges beginning to fray. The healthy, vibrant pulse of the land is weakening, and you know with a cold certainty that you are walking in the right direction. You are walking towards the sickness.
The subtle signs of change have now become an undeniable reality. The world around you is dying, and you are walking deeper into its corpse. The healthy, sun-baked earth has given way to a sickly, yellowed gray clay that clings to your sandals. The grass is gone, replaced by patchy brown scrub and strange, pale fungi that sprout from the damp ground like bony fingers. The trees are the most jarring testament to the land's corruption. They are no longer just sparse. They are twisted, knotty, skeletal things, their branches reaching for the sky as if in silent agony. The bark is peeling from their trunks, which are covered in a slick, slimy moss that shimmers with an unhealthy, pale green light. They do not offer shade. They only cast long, distorted shadows that seem to claw at you as you pass. The water in the streams is now a foul, stagnant brown, covered with a thick algae that looks like green scum. A bitter chemical taste lingers in it, and you no longer dare to refill your water skin, relying on the dwindling supply you have carried with you. The world has become hostile. It offers no comfort, no sustenance.
And then there is the silence. The vibrant chorus of the Greek countryside is vanished completely. There are no birds singing from the skeletal branches. There are no cicadas buzzing in the oppressive heat. The world has gone mute. The only sounds are the thick, wet squelch of your own boots in the soft, muddy ground, your own ragged, labored breathing, and a new sound that grows with every step, the low, constant, maddening hum of insects. Not the cheerful buzz of bees, but the drone of fat black flies, the kind that feast on decay. They swarm in lazy, dark clouds, and you find yourself constantly waving them away from your face. The air itself is an enemy. The humidity is suffocating, a heavy, wet blanket that makes it difficult to breathe. And it carries a new smell. The sweet, herbal scent of the hills has been replaced by the overpowering stench of rot. It is the deep, thick smell of vegetation decaying into black sludge, of stagnant water, of unseen things putrefying in the shadows. And beneath it all, there is a sharp, acrid undertone, something that stings the nostrils. It is the scent of poison. The very exhalation of the Hydra, a miasma that has poisoned the land for miles around.
The air makes your head throb with a dull, persistent ache. Your lungs burn with every breath, and you begin to feel a lightheadedness that makes the world seem unsteady, as if you are walking on the deck of a ship. A low-lying, greasy mist begins to cling to the ground, a fog that does not cool, but only adds to the suffocating dampness. You push onward, your body screaming in protest, your mind clouded by the toxic fumes. This is a new kind of warfare. The land itself is fighting you, trying to weaken you, to sicken you before you even reach your true foe. Finally, after a journey that has felt like a descent into another world, you push through a last dying thicket of reeds and stop. Before you lies the swamp of Lerna.
It is a vast, desolate, and silent expanse of murky, black water, choked with tangled, rotting vegetation and the skeletal arms of dead trees reaching up from the depths. A thick, yellowish fog hangs low over the surface, obscuring the horizon and giving the entire landscape a hazy, dreamlike quality, the quality of a nightmare. The sun, which has been your only companion, is now just a pale, hazy disk in the gray sky, its light too weak and too weary to penetrate the oppressive gloom. This is it, the end of the road, the place where life gives way to a slow, creeping death. Somewhere in the heart of this putrid, poisonous wasteland, the creature you were sent to kill makes its home. Your journey is over. The true, soul-crushing ordeal is about to begin. You stand at the edge of the world, or so it feels. The healthy, living land ends abruptly at your feet, a definitive line between what is natural and what is deeply, profanely wrong. Before you, the swamp of Lerna stretches out like a great festering wound upon the earth, its gray-green mist a feverish breath rising from the stagnant water. For a long, silent moment you simply stand there, a lone figure on the precipice of decay. Every instinct honed from years of survival, every shred of reason you possess screams at you to turn back, to abandon this mad quest. This is not a place for men. This is a place where life comes to die. But the memory of the king's cold eyes and the weight of his command are a heavier burden than your own fear. With a slow, deep breath that tastes more of damp rot than of air, you take the first step forward, leaving the solid ground behind. The sound is immediate and sickening. A thick, wet, greedy squelch. Your leather boot, which has carried you across miles of solid earth, sinks instantly into a cold black mud that feels unnervingly like a living thing. It clutches at your ankle, its suction surprisingly strong, trying to pull you down, to claim you before you've even truly begun. It takes a genuine grunting effort to pull your foot free, the mud releasing its grip with a reluctant, wet sigh. You take another step, and then another. Each one is a separate, exhausting battle against the swamp itself. The moment you enter, the smell intensifies tenfold, transforming from a distant unpleasantness into a physical assault. It is a complex, layered symphony of decay. There is the heavy, sweet scent of countless seasons of vegetation rotting into a black, primordial sludge. There is the sharp, sulfurous tang of methane gas bubbling up from the depths. And woven through it all is the cloying, putrid aroma of something meaty and dead. A scent that hints at the failed hunts of wolves or the final resting place of some unfortunate deer, hidden somewhere in the murky water nearby. The air is so foul that you can almost taste it, a greasy film that coats your tongue and the back of your throat. And then there are the insects. It is not just a sound, it is a presence. A constant, maddening, multi-layered hum that fills the air and vibrates against your eardrums.
The high-pitched, piercing whine of mosquitoes swarming in clouds so thick they look like black smoke. The low, lazy drone of fat, black flies, bold and unafraid, landing on your face, your neck, your hands, crawling with sticky legs. You swatted them, a futile, repetitive gesture. For every one you kill, 100 more take its place. They are the true natives of this desolate kingdom, and you are merely a trespasser in their domain. Your progress is painstakingly slow. The terrain is a treacherous, unpredictable nightmare. There is no path. One moment, you find yourself on a small island of semi-solid ground, a patch of earth covered in a slick, unnaturally bright green moss that looks solid but threatens to give way under your weight. The next, you are wading through murky, knee-deep water, the color of black oil. The water is cold, but it is a dead, stagnant cold. It does not refresh, it only saps the warmth from your weary bones. You cannot see what lies beneath its slick surface, and you feel the constant, horrifying brush of unseen things against your submerged legs. The slimy stems of rotting weeds, the hard scrape of a sunken branch, or something else, something that feels softer, something you refuse to identify. The vegetation that rises from the swamp is as much an enemy as the ground itself. Great thickets of black, sharp-edged reeds catch on your tunic, leaving long, stinging scratches on your exposed skin. The skeletal branches of the dead trees, draped in their pale, stringy moss, seem to reach for you like grasping claws, snagging your cloak, trying to hold you back, to ensnare you. You press on, your world shrinking to the next few feet in front of you. Test the ground, take a step, pull your foot from the mud. Test the ground, take a step. It is a grueling, monotonous rhythm. The physical effort is immense, and a deep, burning ache settles into your muscles. Sweat pours down your face, stinging your eyes, offering no relief in the oppressive humidity. It only serves to make the grime and filth of the swamp cling more tightly to your skin. After what feels like an age of this struggle, you come across the first definitive sign that you are not just in a natural swamp, but in a place of unnatural death. Half submerged in the black water lies the carcass of a great wild boar. Its body is bloated and decayed, but that is not what freezes the blood in your veins. Its hide, tough as leather, is pitted and corroded, sections of it seemingly melted away as if by a powerful acid. This was not the work of wolves or time. This was the work of the Hydra's venomous blood. You have crossed an invisible threshold. You are no longer in the outskirts of the swamp. You have just stepped into the monster's pantry, leaving the unsettling sight of the dead boar behind. You push deeper into the swamp, and the world around you grows progressively more alien, more hostile. The physical misery you have endured now begins to merge with a deeper, more insidious corruption. The very air you breathe has become your enemy. The mist that has been clinging to the ground grows thicker, swirling around your knees. It is no longer a simple gray fog. It carries a distinct yellowish-green tinge, a visible manifestation of the poison that saturates this place.
Breathing is no longer an unconscious act. It is a conscious, painful effort. Each inhalation feels like you are drawing a fine, hot dust into your lungs, and a persistent, dry cough begins to rack your body, each spasm sending a jolt of pain through your exhausted frame.
The toxic miasma begins its work on your mind. A lightheadedness sets in, making the already treacherous ground seem to sway beneath your feet. Your vision blurs at the edges, the skeletal trees and murky water dissolving into a disorienting, dreamlike haze. A dull, throbbing headache that started as a minor annoyance has now become a constant, pounding drumbeat behind your eyes. A strange metallic taste forms on your tongue. You feel your thoughts becoming slow, muddy, just like the ground you walk upon. You have to fight to maintain focus, to remember your purpose, to remember the simple act of putting one foot in front of the other. The swamp is not just trying to kill your body, it is trying to dissolve your mind. The signs of the Hydra's presence become more frequent, more personal. You are no longer finding the bones of animals. You stumble upon a rusted, half-dissolved helmet, its bronze eaten away as if by some powerful acid. A little further on, you see the unmistakable shape of a warrior's shield, half buried in the mud, its surface pitted and corroded, its proud emblem now an unrecognizable smear. These are the remains of those who came before you, other heroes, other fools, men who, like you, walked into this swamp with a sword and a task, only to become a permanent part of its grim landscape. The sight does not bring you fear, but a profound, weary sadness. You are just another link in a long chain of failure.
The landscape becomes even more primordial. You have reached the heart of the swamp, and there, through the swirling yellow-green fog, you see it. An island of black rock and dark mud rises from the center of the largest, blackest pool of water you have yet seen. The water around it does not move. There are no bubbles, no ripples. It is a pool of dead, still water, like a plate of black glass. And at the base of this grim, festering hill is a cave. The entrance is a great, dark, gaping hole in the rock face, a wound, a mouth. It is fringed with long, hanging strands of slimy, green, black moss that drip slowly into the water below. The air coming from it is a physical force. It is colder than the rest of the swamp, and it carries the concentrated stench of the beast, a suffocating wave of rot, of an ancient reptilian musk, and of pure, unadulterated venom. This is the lair, the Hydra's den.
You find a patch of semi-solid ground nearby, a small hummock of earth partially hidden behind the trunk of a great, petrified tree. You sink down, your body finally surrendering to exhaustion. The relief on your screaming muscles is immense, but it is immediately replaced by a new, sharper form of terror. Before you were moving, fighting, acting. Now you are still. You are silent. You are a stationary target waiting in the heart of your enemy's territory. All you can do is listen. You listen past the eternal hum of the insects. You listen past the pounding of your own heart. You listen for any sound from the black maw of the cave. Sometimes you think you hear something,
a distant, heavy scrape of stone on stone, a low rumble that might just be the blood rushing in your own ears. The poison in the air makes you question your senses. Is the sound real, or is it just a phantom born of your fear and the sickness creeping into your mind? The hazy, weak light of the sun finally fades, and a deep, starless twilight descends upon the swamp. You sit there, in the cold, in the dark, in the filth, and you wait. You wait for a creature of nightmare to emerge from the blackness. The anticipation is a silent, refined form of torture, the final, grueling test before the true ordeal can even begin.
You remain motionless, hidden behind the gnarled trunk of the dead tree, every muscle coiled with a tension that is becoming unbearable. The waiting is its own form of torture. The minutes stretch into an eternity, each one measured by the slow, thick bubbling of the swamp gas and the maddening, constant hum of the flies. To wait here any longer is to surrender to the slow, creeping poison in the air, to let the swamp itself finish the king's work for you. You realize, with a grim certainty that rises above your fear, that you must force the confrontation. You must wake the beast from its slumber. You remember the whispers, the fragmented tales from old hunters. The creature, for all its might, abhors the purity of fire. It is a desperate gamble, a sliver of a hope in a world consumed by despair, but it is the only plan you have.
With movements that are slow and deliberate, designed to make no sound, you unstring the bow from your shoulder. You pull 3 arrows from your quiver. In this perpetually damp glace, finding anything dry enough to burn is an ordeal. You carefully shave thin slivers of wood from the driest part of your bow with your knife and gather a small, precious bundle of pale moss you find growing in a hollow of the dead tree. Your hands, stiff with cold and slick with grime, struggle with your flint and steel. A spark. It dies in the humid air. Another. It vanishes. You grit your teeth, focusing all your will on this one small task. A third spark catches on the tinder, a tiny, fragile ember. You cup your hands around it, blowing with a gentle, steady breath, coaxing it to life. A small, brave flame flickers into existence, a tiny, defiant sun in the oppressive gloom of the swamp. You work quickly, wrapping the heads of your arrows with the tinder and pieces of your own cloak, creating crude but effective firebrands. You rise slowly from your hiding place, your feet making no sound in the soft mud. You notch the first flaming arrow, draw back the bowstring with aching, tired muscles, and take aim at the absolute blackness of the cave mouth. You release. The arrow streaks through the misty air, a hiss of light and fire, before disappearing into the void. You fire the second, and then the third, sending your small beacons of defiance into the heart of the darkness. For a long, agonizing moment, nothing happens. The silence of the swamp rushes back in, heavier than before. The only sound is the soft, distant sizzle of your flames being extinguished by the dampness within the cave. A cold feeling of foolishness and failure washes over you. Was it all just a story? Was there nothing in there after all? Did you just waste your precious energy on a child's fable? And then, you feel it before you hear it. A low, deep vibration that seems to come up from the ground itself, through the soles of your boots and into your bones. It is followed by a sound, a low, angry hiss from deep within the earth. But it is not a single hiss. It is layered, a chorus of serpents roused from their ancient slumber. The sound multiplies, growing in volume, a symphony of malice echoing out of the cave mouth and across the black water. Something is coming. Slowly, deliberately, a shape begins to emerge from the blackness. At first, it is just one head, swaying into the dim gray light. It is as thick as a man's thigh, its scales a slick, oily, blackish green that seem to absorb what little light exists in this place. Its eyes are not the fiery red of legend, but a milky, jaundiced yellow, ancient, lidless, and devoid of any emotion save for a cold reptilian hunger. Its forked tongue, black as pitch, darts in and out, tasting your scent on the poisoned air. Then another head emerges beside it, moving with its own independent, yet horribly coordinated grace. Then a third, its neck longer, craning to get a better view. A fourth appears, then a fifth. One by one they emerge from the darkness of the cave, a writhing, weaving forest of serpentine necks. 9 of them in total. They move with an unnatural fluidity, some looking directly at you, others surveying the swamp to the left and right, their 9 pairs of pale eyes, a distributed, all-seeing network of perception.
Finally, the great body that supports them drags itself into the open. It is an immense, bloated, reptilian form, low to the ground, built for power, not for speed. Its great bulk is supported by 4 thick, powerful legs, each ending in long, vicious claws that dig into the mud. The 9 necks sprout from this single monstrous torso, a living, hissing testament to a god's curse. The creature is an abomination, a living violation of the natural order, and the full weight of its unnatural presence settles upon the swamp, silencing even the eternal hum of the insects. It stands before you, a living monument of horror, its many heads swaying, its many eyes watching. The nightmare has been awakened.
For an endless moment, you are locked in place, mesmerized by the sheer wrongness of the creature before you. Your mind struggles to process the sight of the 9-headed beast, this living embodiment of a drunken god's nightmare. It does not charge, it simply observes you, its many heads weaving in a slow, hypnotic dance, its 9 pairs of yellow eyes, calculating, assessing. Then, with a speed that seems impossible for its immense bulk, one of the heads lunges. It is a blur of green-black scales, a whip-crack of motion. You do not have time to think. Your body reacts on pure instinct, throwing yourself to the side, landing hard in the cold, slick mud. The great jaws, lined with teeth like shards of obsidian, snap shut with a sickening clack exactly where you were standing a second before. A drop of its black saliva sizzles on a nearby rock, releasing a puff of acrid smoke.
You scramble to your feet, your heart hammering against your ribs, a cold sweat on your brow. The warrior's instinct, buried for so long under layers of dread and despair, finally takes over. As another head strikes, you raise your bronze shield, parrying the blow.
The force of the impact is immense, a solid bone-jarring shock that reverberates up your entire arm, nearly tearing the shield from your grasp. In that moment of impact, you see an opening. Another of the serpentine necks is exposed, its head momentarily distracted. This is your chance, the only chance you might get. You do not hesitate. With a desperate roar that tears from your own throat, a sound of defiance against the crushing futility of your quest, you lunge forward. You raise your heavy bronze sword, putting every ounce of your remaining strength, every shred of your desperation, into a single, clean, downward arc. You feel the satisfying resistance as your blade bites deep into the thick, scaly neck. It is tougher than you imagined, but your sharpened edge holds true. With a final, grunting effort, you sever it completely. The head tumbles from the creature's body, landing in the black water with a soft splash, its yellow eyes still blinking stupidly as it sinks into the murky depths. For a single, glorious, fleeting second, a surge of wild, manic triumph courses through your veins. It can be wounded. It can be killed. It is mortal after all. The stories, the king, your own fears, they were wrong. A desperate, ragged laugh escapes your lips. But your laughter dies in your throat. The true horror, the central, vexing cruelty of your task unfolds before your eyes.
The victory lasts for less than a heartbeat. From the bleeding, steaming stump of the neck you just severed, the black blood does not just pour. It bubbles and boils, as if the creature's very life force is a churning, venomous cauldron. The flesh begins to writhe grotesquely, like a nest of pale, thick worms stirring to life. And then, with a sickening, unnatural speed, not one, but two new heads sprout from the wound. They are smaller at first, pale and unformed, but they grow with a cancerous vitality, elongating, forming scales, their yellow eyes snapping open. In mere moments they are fully grown, joining the others in the chorus of hisses, their forked tongues tasting the air, their gazes locking onto you with a fresh, doubled fury. You stare in utter frozen disbelief. Your sword, which felt like an extension of your own will just a moment ago, now feels impossibly heavy in your numb fingers. The hope, the wild surge of triumph evaporates, replaced by a cold, clear, and absolute despair that is 1,000 times worse than the simple fear you felt before.
You have not wounded the beast. You have strengthened it. Your greatest effort, your moment of seeming victory, was in fact a gift to your enemy. The rumors were not exaggerated. They were the literal, horrifying truth. You are not a hero fighting a monster. You are a man trying to empty the sea with a bucket, and every bucket you throw out only causes the tide to rise higher. You look at the beast before you, now with 10 heads, all of them swaying, all of them hissing, all of them staring at you with their cold, unblinking yellow eyes. You have failed, and in your failure you have made your enemy stronger, more impossible, more invincible, and it is your turn to be attacked again.
You stand before the 10-headed beast, the cold reality of your situation washing over you like the swamp's filthy water. Your sword, once a symbol of your strength and skill, now feels like a useless fool's trinket.
Every instinct of a trained warrior screams that this is an unwinnable fight, a logical paradox made of flesh and venom. But the Hydra does not wait for you to contemplate your despair. It attacks. The assault is a dizzying, overwhelming siege of motion. It is like fighting a living thicket of serpents. One head lunges low, trying to sweep your legs from under you, while another strikes high, forcing you to raise your shield with a jarring clang. A third and fourth whip around from the sides, their jaws snapping in a pincer movement. Your shield cannot be everywhere at once. You are constantly moving, stumbling backwards, dodging, parrying, your entire world reduced to a whirlwind of snapping jaws, scaly necks, and the constant deafening chorus of hisses.
A desperate, reckless rage begins to build in your chest, overriding your fear. You will not die here, pecked to death by this abomination. With a hoarse cry, you lunge forward, ignoring the heads that snap at your flanks, and you swing your sword with all your might. You connect with a thick neck, severing it cleanly. But as the head falls, your brief moment of defiance is met with the same grotesque reward. The stump bubbles, and two more angry heads erupt to take its place. Now there are 11. The futility is absolute. It is a physical manifestation of despair. You are not just failing to win, you are actively making the situation worse. The sword in your hand is no longer a weapon. It is a tool that nurtures your enemy, a farmer's trowel planting seeds of destruction. You fall back again, gasping, your lungs on fire, the 11 pairs of yellow eyes watching you with a unified, mocking intelligence. You are trapped in a cycle of failure, and the only escape is death.
It is in that moment of utter hopelessness that a new sound cuts through the swamp's gloom. A human voice, shouting, "The wound! The fire! We must burn the wound!" You turn your head, your eyes stinging with sweat and the toxic air. At the edge of the clearing, standing knee-deep in the black water, is your kinsman, your loyal companion. You had ordered him to stay back, to remain safe at the swamp's edge, but his loyalty or his foolishness was stronger than your command. He holds a blazing torch aloft, its flame a single defiant point of orange light in this world of green and black decay. He must have been watching the entire hopeless battle, seen the grotesque regeneration, and remembered a fragment of some old legend. Fire purifies. Fire prevents growth. It is a terrible thought, a brutal, savage tactic, but it is also the first glimmer of something other than complete despair. It is not the clean hope of a hero, but a horrid, desperate hope born from the muck and filth of this place. A silent understanding passes between you. A grim, desperate plan is formed without another word. You are the blade. He is the flame. You turn your attention back to the Hydra, your body screaming with a new agonizing purpose. You must act as the bait, create the opening. You raise your shield and charge forward, roaring a challenge. The heads converge on you, a whirlwind of snapping jaws. You deflect one, dodge another, and feel the searing pain as the teeth of a third graze your arm, its acidic saliva burning your skin. But you have created the opening you need. For a split second, one of the necks is exposed. You pivot, bringing your sword around in a heavy, desperate arc.
With a wet, satisfying slice, the head is severed. Now you scream, your voice raw.
As the head tumbles into the water, your companion surges forward. He is no warrior, but he moves with the courage of a desperate man. He lunges past the other striking heads, thrusting the blazing torch deep into the bleeding open stump of the neck. The sound that follows will be burned into your memory forever. It is a loud, wet, violent hiss, a sound that drowns out everything else, the sound of living, venomous flesh being seared by fire. The smell is a physical blow, an overpowering, nauseating stench of burning meat, boiling blood, and scorched poison that makes you gag and your eyes water. You watch, mesmerized by the horror, as the flesh blackens and blisters, the wound cauterizing and sealing into a grotesque, charred knot. You both stumble back, watching, waiting, your hearts pounding. A second passes, then two, and nothing happens. No new heads sprout from the blackened stump.
It worked. The Hydra lets out a shriek, a sound that for the first time sounds less like a hiss and more like true, recognizable pain. The remaining 10 heads recoil from the flame, from the smell, from this new, unexpected form of agony. You look at your companion, his face streaked with soot and terror. There is no triumph in his eyes, only a shared, horrified understanding. You have not gained ground, you have only returned to where you started, with 10 heads to face. But for the first time, you have not lost it. You have found a way forward, but the path is paved with a new, more terrible kind of horror.
This became the rhythm of your new hell, a desperate dance of blade and flame, a gruesome partnership forged in the heart of the swamp. There was no room for strategy, no time for thought, only the brutal, repetitive, and all-consuming task. The Hydra, now enraged by this new pain, attacks with a focused fury. Its 10 heads move with a terrifying coordination, trying to separate you from your companion, the keeper of the flame.
Your companion is ready. He surges forward into the heat and the stench, and the terrible sound of searing flesh echoes through the swamp once more. The wound is sealed. 9 heads remain. There is no pause. There is no respite. Another head strikes, its fangs grazing your leg. The pain is sharp, but the venom is worse. A burning, fiery agony begins to spread from the wound, and you feel your leg grow weak and numb. You ignore it. You cannot afford the luxury of pain. You see your next target, another neck, twisting to strike. You duck under a snapping jaw, and with an upward thrust, you sever it. Again, the torch follows. Again, the sickening sizzle and the foul smoke. 8 heads remain. This cycle repeats over and over until it transcends horror and becomes a kind of numb, mechanical labor. The swamp bears witness to your grueling work. A swing, a cut, a lunge, a burn. The air becomes thick and heavy with the black, oily smoke from the cauterized wounds, a funeral pyre for the monster you are killing one piece at a time. The physical toll is immense. Your arms feel like lead, your muscles screaming with every swing of the increasingly heavy sword. Your companion's face is a blackened mask of soot and sweat, his hands blistered and burned from the heat of the torch he so desperately wields. The acidic blood of the Hydra splashes and sizzles around you. and more burns appear on your skin, angry red welts that promise a long, painful recovery if you survive at all. But the mental toll is worse. The horror becomes mundane. The grotesque act of burning and sealing flesh, which at first shocked you to your core, becomes routine. You are no longer thinking, no longer feeling. You are a machine, a cog in a gruesome process. A swing, a cut, a lunge, a burn. You lose track of how many heads have fallen. The world shrinks until it contains only you, your companion, the hissing heads, the sword, and the flame.
7 heads remain, then 6. The Hydra, its body now a mess of scarred, blackened stumps, becomes more desperate. It is a cornered beast, and its remaining heads attack with a frantic, renewed viciousness. A head manages to knock your companion off his feet, sending him stumbling back into the murky water. You have to fight alone for a terrifying minute, a whirlwind of defensive blocks, before he can scramble back to his feet, his torch sputtering but still lit. 5 heads remain, then 4. You are both moving as in a trance, fueled by something beyond mere endurance. You are running on pure will. The poisonous air makes you dizzy, the world swims before your eyes, but you continue. A swing, a cut, a lunge, a burn. 3 heads, then 2. The creature is now a shadow of its former terrifying glory, but it is still deadly. The final 2 mortal heads strike in perfect unison. You manage to block one with your shield, while using the flat of your sword to deflect the other. In the brief moment that they are entangled, you make your final weary cut. The last mortal head is severed. Your companion, with a final ragged cry of exertion, thrusts the torch one last time onto the wound. The final terrible sizzle, the last puff of foul smoke, and then it is over.
A new profound silence falls over the swamp. The hissing chorus is gone. The chaotic motion has ceased. You and your companion stand panting, leaning on each other for support, unable to remain upright on your own. You are wounded, burned, poisoned, and covered in a filth so deep you feel it has seeped into your bones. You look at what remains of the beast. The great body lies still. The many cauterized necks are like blackened, twisted branches on a dead tree. And from the center of it all, a single head still rises. The golden head, the immortal head. It does not hiss. It does not strike. It simply watches you with its cold, ancient, intelligent eyes. You have endured the unendurable. You have survived the endless ordeal. But the task, the impossible task, is still not finished.
A new kind of silence descends upon the blighted swamp. It is not the listening silence of a predator, nor the chaotic silence between attacks. It is a profound, empty silence, broken only by your own ragged, shallow breathing and the exhausted gasps of your companion. Before you, the great, mutilated corpse of the Hydra lies half submerged in the black water, its many cauterized necks like the charred branches of a lightning-struck tree. The battle of numbers, the gruesome,
repetitive ordeal of fire and steel is over. But you are not victorious. From the center of the grotesque mass of dead flesh, one neck still rises, proud and unharmed. It does not hiss. It does not strike. It simply watches you. The scales of this final head are not the sickly green-black of its siblings. They have a faint, otherworldly golden sheen, catching the dim gray light in a way that seems both beautiful and deeply unnatural. And its eyes, its pale yellow eyes, are not filled with the blind, bestial rage you have become accustomed to. They hold a cold, ancient, and unnerving intelligence. It is as if you are being studied, not by a creature, but by a concept. You are being observed by the very idea of immortality itself.
A weary, stubborn anger rises within you, a final ember of the warrior you used to be. You will finish this. You will not be defeated by one last defiant piece of this nightmare. You raise your sword, its bronze edge now horribly notched and blunted, its balance ruined, and you gather the very last dregs of your strength. This is not a wild swing, but a deliberate, powerful, final blow aimed directly at the golden neck. You bring the blade down with all your weight behind it. The sound is not the wet slice of flesh you expect. It is a high-pitched, jarring shurring of metal on something impossibly hard. A sound that shrieks in protest and sends a painful vibration up your entire arm, numbing your hand. Sparks fly, glittering for a brief moment in the gloomy air. Your sword, your faithful companion through countless battles, is now bent into a useless curved shape. You look at the golden neck. There is not a single scratch, not a dent, not a mark. Your companion, seeing this, lets out a cry of disbelief and frustration. He stumbles forward with his sputtering torch, the last ember of your horrid hope. He thrusts the flame directly at the creature's impassive face. The fire licks at the golden scales, parting around them as if they were repelling the heat itself. The scales do not blacken. They do not even smoke. Instead, they seem to absorb the light of the flame, glowing for a moment with a faint internal luminescence. The immortal head does not flinch. It does not even blink its ancient yellow eyes. It simply exists, beyond the touch of your fire, beyond the reach of your steel. And in that moment, the final vestiges of your warrior's spirit crumble into dust. A new kind of despair, colder and deeper than any you have felt before, settles into your soul. You have faced down a biological horror, a creature that defied the laws of life and death through regeneration, and you found a brutal, desperate solution. But this is a metaphysical problem, a problem of eternity. How do you fight something that cannot be wounded? How do you kill that which cannot die?
This is a challenge for gods and titans, not for a mortal man caked in mud and blood. The fight is over, not because you have won, but because you have been fundamentally, absolutely outmatched by the very nature of your foe. It is like trying to stab the wind or burn the sea. You and your companion fall back, stumbling away from the unkillable head. You collapse onto a patch of damp earth, your broken sword falling from your numb fingers. You stare at the head, which remains impassive, watchful, its golden scales gleaming softly in the dim light. Your weapons are useless. Your bodies are battered and broken. And now your spirits are on the very edge of breaking too. The question hangs in the dead, silent air of the swamp, a question with no answer. What now?
You sit in the filth of the swamp, your mind a hollow void, staring at the golden head that watches you from its throne of dead flesh. Your companion slumps beside you, his head in his hands, defeated. The silence stretches on. The problem seems absolute, a wall of impossibility. But as you stare, a new thought begins to form, rising slowly from the depths of your exhaustion. It is not a flash of heroic brilliance. It is a slow, weary, practical thought, a grim laborer's logic. If it cannot be sent to the underworld, then we will bring the underworld to it. We will bury it in the earth. You will not grant it a warrior's death. You will give it a prisoner's entombment. You turn to your kinsman and speak the plan in a hoarse whisper. He looks up, his eyes empty at first, then slowly, a flicker of understanding, of grim, tired resolve returns. It is a terrible plan, a plan of back-breaking, demeaning labor, but it is the only plan left. The first task is the most grotesque. You must move the Hydra's immense, dead body to the base of a great boulder that lies half sunken in the mud nearby. The immortal head, still attached, watches your every move as you and your companion approach its dead form. You take hold of a leg, your hands sinking into the slick, cold flesh. It is heavier than any two men could possibly hope to move. You use the ropes from your backs, tying them around the creature's limbs. You pull, your boots sinking deep into the mud, your muscles screaming in protest. The great carcass shifts with a wet, tearing sound. It is a slow, agonizing process. You drag the monstrous, headless corpse inch by painstaking inch across the swampy ground, leaving a wide, dark trail in the mud. All while the single, living head observes you in its unnerving silence. After what feels like another lifetime, the body is in place, lying in the shadow of the great boulder. Now you must dig its grave. You have no shovels. You use your hands. You use your battered shield as a makeshift spade. You use the sharp edge of a broken rock. You scoop out the thick, black, stinking mud, tossing it aside, carving a shallow pit directly beside the massive stone. It is grueling, filthy work. The mud gets under your fingernails, in your hair. The stench is overpowering. Your back aches with a fire that threatens to split you in two. Finally, the pit is ready. Now comes the final act of butchery. The immortal head must be severed from its dead body. You take your broken, bent sword, and using it like a saw, you begin the grim task. It is not a clean cut. It is a slow, hacking, tearing process. You and your companion work together, hacking through the thick, tough muscle and sinew, through the great spinal column. All the while, the golden eyes of the head watch you, its expression unchanging. With a final ragged tear, the head is free. It tumbles into the pit you have dug,
landing with a soft thud in the black mud. It lies there, still alive, its cold, intelligent eyes staring up at the gray, unforgiving sky, a silent, eternal witness to its own burial. Now for the final labor, the boulder. It is immense, a solid mass of ancient granite worn smooth by centuries of rain and mist. You and your companion place your shoulders against its cold, damp surface. You find what little purchase you can in the slick mud with your feet. You push.
At first, nothing happens. It feels like you are trying to push a mountain. The rock does not move. You grunt, you strain, every muscle in your body shrieking in a chorus of pure agony. You push until your vision begins to darken at the edges, until your lungs feel as if they will burst from the effort. Then, with a deep, groaning scrape, the rock moves. An inch. It is the most beautiful inch you have ever seen. Fueled by this small victory, you gather yourselves for one final, coordinated, desperate shove. You roar, a single, unified cry of pure animal effort, pouring every last drop of your life force into this one final push. The great boulder tilts. It teeters for a heart-stopping moment on the edge of the pit, and then it topples over. It falls with a deep, ground-shaking, final thud. It lands squarely over the pit, burying the immortal head deep beneath the earth and the unyielding stone, sealing it away from the world of light for all eternity. It is done. The swamp is finally, truly silent.
You and your companion collapse where you stand, falling into the mud, your bodies completely and utterly spent. There is no cheer of victory. There is no feeling of glory. There is only the all-consuming ache of a body pushed far beyond its limits and the quiet, empty peace of a task finally, brutally finished.
You and your companion lie collapsed in the foul-smelling mud, your body screaming in protest, your lungs burning with every ragged breath. The great, headless corpse of the Hydra lies still, its immense bulk slowly beginning to sink into the black, stagnant water of the swamp. The air, though still thick with the stench of burned flesh and ancient rot, is quieter now. The aggressive, malevolent presence that saturated this place is gone. The immortal head is buried. The task is done. But as you lie there, staring at the gray, indifferent sky, there is no sense of glory. There is no triumphant surge of pride. There is only a profound, bone-deep weariness, and a feeling of being utterly hollowed out. You did not conquer this place. You merely survived it. Slowly, painfully, you push yourself to your feet. Every muscle protests. You look at the monstrous body, at the black, viscous blood that pools around it, steaming where it touches the water. This victory feels empty. What have you gained from this ordeal? Scars that will never fade. Burns from the torch and the memory of this nightmare etched forever into your mind. There is no trophy to take, no grand prize. And then, a new thought enters your exhausted mind. A cold, practical, and deeply unsettling idea. The myths, the whispers in the taverns, they spoke not only of the Hydra's regenerating heads, but of its blood. A venom so potent, so utterly lethal, that a single drop was said to be enough to bring down the mightiest of creatures, perhaps even a god. You look at your quiver of arrows, then back at the pooling black blood of the beast. There is your reward. With a grim sense of purpose, you retrieve the arrows from your quiver. One by one, you approach the dead monster, averting your eyes from its grotesque form. You kneel in the mud, and you dip the bronze tip of your first arrow into the thick, oily venom. The black blood clings to the metal, a dark, gleaming promise of certain death. You dip another and another until every arrow you possess is coated in the Hydra's poison. You handled them with extreme care. A single misplaced drop on your skin would mean an agonizing end. As you place the last poisoned arrow back into your quiver, you feel a change. The arrows feel heavier now, not with physical weight, but with the weight of the terrible power they now contain. They are no longer simple tools of the warrior or the hunter. They have been transformed into instruments of absolute death. There is no cure for this venom. There is no defense against it.
This is the true nature of your victory. It is not gold or fame or the king's gratitude. It is this terrible power, this curse, born from a miserable swamp and a creature of nightmare. You came here to destroy a monster, and in doing so, you have harnessed its most monstrous weapon for yourself. The quest has not purified you, it has tainted you. And this poison, this terrible gift from the swamp of Lerna, its story does not end here with you. It echoes through other myths, a single potent thread of venom weaving its way through the lives of other great heroes and immortal beings. They say that years later, the great hero Heracles, during one of his other labors, would accidentally wound a friend with one of these very arrows. The friend was Chiron, the wise and gentle centaur, the immortal teacher of heroes. Because Chiron was immortal, the Hydra's poison could not kill him, but it could cause him pain, an eternal, unbearable agony for which there was no relief. So great was his suffering that he eventually chose to give up his own immortality, trading it to free the Titan Prometheus, just so he could finally be allowed to die.
And the poison's tale ends, as it must, with Heracles himself. Years later, his wife Deimira, tricked by a dying enemy, would smear a robe with the Hydra's blood, believing it to be a charm to ensure her husband's faithfulness. When Heracles put on the robe, the poison, activated by his own body heat, seeped into his skin, causing him an agony so immense, so all-consuming, that the mightiest of heroes built his own funeral pyre to escape the pain. The very weapon that helped secure his legendary fame became the instrument of his own agonizing death. All of that future suffering, it lies dormant now, glistening on the tips of the arrows in your quiver. You have what you came for, and more. You turn your back on the sinking corpse of the Hydra and the great silent boulder that marks the immortal head's tomb. You and your companion begin the long, slow walk out of the swamp.
The journey out is just as difficult as the journey in, but the atmosphere has changed. The oppressive, living malice is gone. Now it is just a dead, empty, and desolate place. You do not look back. There is nothing here you wish to remember. You are leaving not as a triumphant victor, but as a survivor of a plague. carrying a sample of its deadliest contagion with you. As you finally step onto solid, healthy ground, leaving the stench and the gloom of the swamp behind, you take a deep breath of clean air. But you know, with a cold certainty, that the poison on your arrows and the memory of this grim task will remain with you forever.
The journey back from Lerna is a quiet, somber affair. The beautiful Greek countryside, which seemed so vibrant and full of life on your way to the swamp, now feels muted, its colors washed out. Or perhaps it is not the world that has changed, but you. The grime of the swamp feels caked onto your very soul. You return to the court of King Eurystheus. You stand before him not as a conquering hero, but as a weary survivor. You report that the task is done. The Hydra is no more. A flicker of relief crosses the king's face, quickly replaced by a new kind of fear as he looks at you. He sees the haunted look in your eyes, the grim set of your jaw. He sees the black, venomous stain on the tips of your arrows. There is no parade. There are no songs of praise. There is only a quiet, curt dismissal. Your reward is not glory or gold. Your reward is simply that you are not dead. You have solved an unpleasant problem for a king who is now more afraid of you than he ever was of the monster.
You walk away from the court, the weight of your so-called victory heavy on your shoulders. And you understand the true nature of some heroic deeds. They are not glorious, they are not noble. They are thankless, grueling tasks of endurance. They are about wading through filth and poison to put an end to something terrible, and being forever stained by the experience. The glory of being a hero, you realize, is a story told by those who have never had to do the dirty work. And so, the tale of the Hydra and the thankless task of its slayer comes to a close. A story not of a shining champion, but of a weary survivor. A quiet reminder that some of the greatest battles we face are not fought for glory, but are simply painfully endured. But that burden is not yours to carry into the night. Let the memory of the swamp now fade. Let the feeling of the cold, grasping mud dissolve from your limbs. Let the scent of poison be replaced by the clean, quiet air of your room. The heavy weight of that impossible task can be set down now. It is finished. Your only task for tonight is to rest. Follow the steady, quiet rhythm of your own breathing, a gentle tide pulling you away from the shores of myth and out into the calm, deep ocean of sleep. The story is over. Your journey is done. There are no more monsters. There is no more struggle. There is only this quiet moment, this stillness, this peace. Rest now. Sleep well.